Oh yeah, who let the dogs out? Mr. B let the dogs out. We're gonna do Scratch the Dog right here. So open up Scratch and let's get right to it. Now you may need to drag this Scratch tab out of the Chrome web browser so that you can watch this video and do the project at the same time. So go ahead and separate them now, and then when you're ready, go ahead and sign in. Use your sign in that you initially started up with the other day. So go ahead and sign in to Scratch, and we're going to create a new project. So I start up a new Scratch project, and I'm going to go ahead and name this first things first here. Last name, first name, and then dog. Yeah, that's it. And I can get rid of the Scratch the Cat. I don't need him. I'm going to click on him and delete him out of there. Now I'm going to need a sprite, of course. So I'm going to come down here to the bottom of the screen here where it has new sprites. I'm going to click on the choose sprite from library button right here. And I'm going to look for my dog. Where my dog's at? Where's my dog's at? So I'm going to go to animals. And I'm going to be looking for a blue dog. And I scroll over, down. Where is he? Right there. Dog number 2. Click on him and hit OK. He's going to come into my screen right here. You can see this dog looks sharp. One thing I want to mention real quick here is that in costumes, I automatically have different versions of this dog. So if I click on number 2, you can see his feet are moving, and we will use this later on in this video to give him a sense of movement right here. But I don't need number 3. So let's click on number 3. Let's get rid of him right away. So I just need dog A and dog B. Let's go ahead and give our dog some motion here. So I'm going to go over to scripts. I click on scripts and I have some motion blocks. I can take my dog movement block, drive it over here into my work area. And then if I click on the movement block, you will see he will actually jump 10 steps. Let's come over here to control and look for a forever box or tile and throw that right over the top. And now when I click on it, he will continue to move forward. Let's pull him back out into the screen. But as you see again, clicking on forever, moving forward by 10, that's the speed he's going to go. Hit stop, bring him back into the screen, and let's move on from here. Okay, so now that I know what he does there, I'm going to add some more motion. So let's go back to motion. And what I want to have him do is bounce off the edge. So I'm looking for if on edge he's going to bounce, and that's in the motion tiles. And I'm going to also drag that in and slap that into my forever bracket. So now when I click on forever bracket, moves forward and he's bouncing off, and you can see it's almost like he's a swimmer here. He bounces off the wall and turns over. So I don't want him to turn over necessarily. I want him to look like he's still on the ground. So what I'm going to need to do is go down below right here and click on the I button, and this will give me information about my sprite. Now you see it says it's turning, so as he bounces it turns and it changes direction. I want him to go back and forth. I click on the back and forth, and now you can see the dog doesn't flip over anymore. He goes with his feet flat on the floor. I want to have these flags also control the scripts from going on and off. So I'm going to go over to the events tab over here, and I'm going to say when I click the flag, I want this forever block to start. So I just drop it over top of the tiles over here. Now when I click on this, or I click on the flag on the screen here on the stage, you'll see that the dog moves. And I can also stop the dog using the stop sign. Now I want to animate the dog to make him look like he's walking. Remember, if I showed you in costumes right here, it says dog 1, dog A, or dog 2A, dog 2B, and it looks like the guy is walking if I click on each one, as you can see. So I want to do that automatically. I want to have, let's start off by going to the controls, and let's grab a forever tile and just test this thing out here. I'm going to go over here to looks, and I'm going to have change costume or next costume. So I click on next costume, I drag that out, and then when I click forever, you can see he's moving from costume A to costume B. However, this is going way too fast. So let's slow this down, and to paste this, I'm going to go back into control. And if I look over here, I could say wait 1 second. I'm going to drag this in, and I'm going to drop it underneath, and now it will wait 1 second until it changes to the next costume. This seems a little bit too slow. So let's lower this to 0.1 second. And then when I hit return, there it goes. So if I think that's still too fast, maybe I go to 0.2 seconds. You know, it all depends how fast you're going to move your dog across your screen, I guess. I think that looks like a good speed. So I'm going to use these two tiles. I'll click on next costume, and it will take it'll take the next costume plus the wait tile, and I could drop it into the forever block up here. Once I don't need this tile anymore, I could just drag this back into the display case over here, and it will disappear. Now when I click on the flag, you will see he walks, he bounces, and he keeps on walking. Let's now get a background for our dog walking over here. So if I go over to the lower left hand side and I click this stage background over here, and then I come up over here and I click on backdrops. Okay, so I'm at backdrops and the background. I can come over here and I can add a background. I click on add and it gives me a whole bunch of predetermined ones, and I can just choose really any of them, but I'm just going to choose the playground to make it simple. And the playground is in there, and then when I click on scripts, it will import it in, saving my project and showing me that this is behind the dog. So I'm going to move my dog to a little bit to the bottom here, and I'm going to click on my green light or green flag, and you can see now he's walking across the playground. I'm now going to show you how to edit some of the sprites that you can choose. So I'm going to click on my sprite right here. I'm going to come over here to costumes, and I'm going to change up my costume a little bit. So let's say on the second dog, click on the second dog. I want him to wag his tail now, but I can't select that tail. I can't keep that grip unless I convert it to a bitmap. In the lower right hand side, go ahead and convert to a bitmap, and it gives you other tools which will allow me to draw, select, erase, and modify my piece of clip art here. So I'm going to use the selection tool. I'm going to highlight just his tail, like so. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to flip it upside down. And then I'm just going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard to bring it back down into place. And then when I click out of it, you can see the tail is now in the downward position. So I have 1, I have 2. So let's go ahead and now come back to scripts and hit go. Sometimes this happens where my script gets all out of whack, it's not centered anymore. To change this up, I'm going to go back to my costumes right here. And you may or may not have this problem, but that's okay. I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. And you just center the dog. And I do that just right on his eyeball, and it usually makes it at least a little simple, just a spot right on his eyeball. And he jumps to a new location, and that's fine. I clicked on him. Now I go up here, and I'm going to center the second dog as well. So I click on the centering button, and then I click on his eyeball again, centering right on the eyeball. So now both dogs in the exact same location, and when I come back over to scripts, it'll change the picture and hit go. And now you can see the dog is actually wagging his tail as well. The next feature that I'd like to concentrate on are the sounds. So if I go over here to the sounds tab, it automatically has a sound associated with the sprite once I added it, and you could sample this. Now keep your earphones on. I don't want to be hearing dog barking and all sorts of other noise. So you can Keep your earphones on, obviously, and just sample it by hitting the play button right here. So let's incorporate this into our script. So if I come back to my script window, I'm going to go to Events, and I'm going to say when the space bar is pressed, come up here to the sounds, and I'm going to play the dog sound. Now when I hit the space bar, it automatically barks. Test that out. This dog is getting lonely, so let's find another buddy for him to enjoy this playground with. So let's go over here to the sprites window. Come down here. I'm going to add another sprite. I click on this. I'm going to look for another animal. And I'm going to look for a parrot. Let's find a parrot in this area here. I'm scrolling down looking for my parrot. Found him. So let's go ahead and just click on parrot, and it imports him in. And I could shrink down this parrot so that it doesn't look so disproportionate to the dog. As you can see, the parrot is huge, dog not so huge. So let's use the shrink. I click on the shrink button, come out here, and pop a couple shrinks on him until I find the appropriate size that I want him. Now, as you can see, the parrot, much in the same way that the dog had a second costume. So if I go over here to costumes, you can see I have 2 costumes for the parrot, and this will give it a flying motion when the time comes. So let's first give him some motion to move him around the screen. So I'm going to go to my scripts tab, hit on motion, and I'm going to move him. However, I'm going to move him differently than I've moved any other sprite so far. So let's start off with the move button, because we're going to have him moving 10 steps, and then let's say point in the direction. So I'm going to drag out this point in direction and add it to my tile pane. And now when I click on a certain key on the keyboard, I want him to move. So I'm going to go over here to Events, and I'm going to say when I hit this key, this key is pressed, or not space, but I'm going to say, let's say the up arrow. So for instance, the up arrow, I'm going to tell him to point in the up direction. Okay, so you'll see it will say up next to 0. Now to duplicate this script as it's shown right here, I can right click on it or hold down the control button while clicking and then hit duplicate, and it will duplicate the entire selection just like I did here. Drop it into place, and now I can do some more work on it. Instead of the up arrow, the down arrow, and then I want this number here to match the down arrow. So if up was 0, down is 180 in the opposite direction, so that's 180. And again, control, click, or right click, and choose each direction as it goes down. So I'm going to go ahead and make all my selections, and now let's see how he operates. So now as I click on my arrow keys, you can see that this bird is flying back and forth, but you can see also that he's turning around, he's facing up, he's facing down. So we're going to need to straighten him out like I did with the dog. Down here in the sprites window, I got to go to the information. So I'm going to click on the information, and once again I'm going to straighten him out so that the parrot actually flies normal. So up, down, left, and right. But look at these wings. They aren't flapping. How can I tell that this bird is moving if his wings aren't flapping? Let's change it up. Back up over here to the looks. I'm going to make his costume change. So I just say next costume. So I click on the next costume and I drag that out, putting 1 in each area as it goes down here. Looking back on it, I probably should have added that to the first one so that when I duplicate it, it automatically duplicates. But now you can see that when I use my arrow keys, he is also flapping his wings. There are some other really weird features to this that I'd like to make you aware of. If you go up here to looks, and I'm going to change the parrot's looks now. So if I come down here and I have effects, I could put different effects on the parrot. So if I take the effects out like this and put it over here, and then I'm going to change the color, and you could just set it by 20, 25, whatever you want. And then I click on it, you'll see what happens to the parrot. Okay, so I'm clicking on it over here. You can see the color is changing each time I click on it. So let's go ahead and select a forever control to go over top of that changing. And then when I click on this, he's going to be flashing like crazy. Maybe even a little bit too fast. So again, let's do a wait 0.1 second. And that'll slow him down just a little bit. And then let's go ahead and add an event. When I click on the green flag, that forever is going to begin now. So now you can see that when I click on the green flag, I have my parrot moving. I can use my arrow keys to move him around the screen. The dog is walking, parrot's flying, and the colors are changing. One last thing that I want you to be aware of before we call it quits is getting another feature here of getting them to talk to one another perhaps. So as it stands right now, when I hit the space bar, the dog barks, right? So I can also say, listen, when that happens, I want the bird to tell him to stop barking at me. So I can drag this out where it says hello. I can drag this out, put it into my bird script over here, and I use my events. When the space bar is pressed, the bird now talks to the dog. It says hello. I don't want him to say hello. I want him to say, please stop barking at me. Now, when I hit the space bar, you'll see it says, please stop barking, and it goes away after 2 seconds. I can, of course, set this to be a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, however I want it. So now my bird is floating around the screen, and when the dog barks, the bird tells him, quit it. So, in review, when I hit the green flag, my colors are changing on my parrot. My dog is walking. He's bouncing off the wall. The feet of the animals always stay to the ground floor. And when I go right, it's moving right, left, up, down. And when I press the space bar, it says, please stop barking at me for 2 seconds. And then it goes away. So those are all the features that I want you to concentrate on today. If you are finished and your script operates properly, call me over and I'll grade it at your seat. And of course, graded or not, you always want to make sure that you've saved your project. So go ahead and save that. Call me over. I'll grade it for you.